So, I've had this really weird story that I always think about when I read any paranormal stories, and I don't think anyone I've ever told believes me. To make it worse, I don't think anyone involved remembers it. But here it goes anyway, because I want you guys to tell me what happened. Okay, so anyway, when I was a kid, maybe between 8 and 10, if I had to guess, I went to the dentist and got a balloon after the checkup. The balloon had on the front a cartoon dentist with the office number and address under it. Nothing unusual. I'd probably gotten them 100 times. Well, anyway, at night as a kid, I always slept with my hallway light on. And this night, I watched this balloon drift down the hallway, stop by my room, and rotate so the cartoon dentist face is looking at me. I'm actually getting chills thinking of this. But the balloon wasn't like floating along the ceiling either. It was like shoulder height. So anyway, this really creeped me out, so I walked down the hallway and put it in my brother's room. He wasn't there. I'm assuming he maybe was either at a friend's or maybe sleeping downstairs. I don't remember. But anyway, this happened multiple times. I can't recall how many, but after enough of it, I finally closed my brother's door after putting the balloon back and went to sleep. The next morning, still kind of weirded out, I went back to check on the balloon, and it was popped on my brother's floor. Not only that, but I remember picking it up and just feeling really bad that it had popped. I told my dad about it, and he said maybe it was his grandfather or his dad who always told him they wanted to meet his kids, but passed away too soon. After that, I never had any strange paranormal activity in my house. If it really was my dad's family member, I hope I didn't hurt them, but if I did, I hope they know I'm sorry. I was traveling by bus one time. This particular bus was somewhat old, perhaps a few decades, and there weren't many passengers aboard it. I fell asleep at one point and woke up realizing the bus had stopped. I looked out of the window and saw that it had stopped to pick up more passengers from a nearby town. I turned my eyes to the bus corridor, still drowsy after having woken up, and saw two persons walking the corridor, approaching from the front end of the bus. The first one was a man, somewhere around in his 40s or 50s. Gray hair, brown eyes, and a white, light blue checkered shirt. Behind him was a brunette woman, but I didn't make much notice of her because the male had made eye contact with me. He was looking at me with a neutral stare, and I was thus focused on him. I blinked my eyes, and both of them had disappeared. It was only 10 to 20 seconds later when the first passengers started coming aboard the bus, and the two persons were nowhere to be seen. I stood up to check if they were anywhere in the bus. Was I seeing dreams even though I was awake? After all, I had just awoken and was still drowsy, but I could move my head and body. Did my mind notice the bus had stopped to pick up more passengers and decided to thus create some passengers for me? Or did I come face to face with some kind of residual energy to end up in a weird temporary time split? This is the first time I saw something like this. These two persons were so vivid and lifelike. I felt I could have just stood up and go talk to them. Actually, I kind of regret that I didn't do it. After recently reading creepy experience stories, I remembered an experience I had when I was about 14 to 15. I haven't given it much thought till now. Well, even after sharing it with my spouse last night, I got chills and goosebumps. I'm hoping maybe someone has an explanation or a similar experience. I also apologize if I'm posting to the wrong sub. So, anyway, it was late at night, probably between 10 and 11 p.m. I had just gotten off work at my fast food job. I always took the trolley home. I grew up in, well, I wouldn't say it was the projects, but it wasn't the best area. It's the kind of place where street smarts are learned early. I was walking to my friend's house after getting off at the trolley junction. It's dark in the area and crime has been known to happen there, so I made a point to keep my senses high. As I walked up the road to the set of steps that led out of the junction to the streets, I noticed there was a man walking close behind me, close enough I could hear him breathing. As I look over my shoulder, I have the what the fuck look on my face. I had never seen this guy before, and for the life of me, I can't remember his face or many other things about him. The things I do remember are only due to a conversation following the event. Anyway, this guy gets close to me but still arm's length away and says, "Are you so-and-so?" He asks my full government name. I'm still not totally creeped out because maybe he has a friend who knows me. So I'm like, "And who are you?" And he's like, "You're a Virgo, right?" And my creep meter is ticking. He says again, "You're a Virgo. You were born in September, right?" I was never the type of person to celebrate my birthdays. I didn't have parties, I didn't really even mention it, and would tend to let it pass, and for all I can remember, the only person who knew was my absent parents and my best friend. Even so, why would my birthday come up in a conversation between people who knew me? I know I'm sidetracking, but I'm walking at full speed. I asked, "Who are you and how do you know me?" And he goes, "I know you, but you don't know me." Just as he says that, I get to my turn for the city stairs. As I turn into the walled-off area for a split second, I think to myself, if this guy's going to try something, I'm giving him the perfect opportunity. Feeling stupid, I turn to head out of the dark area, maybe take the long way if needed, but he isn't behind me anymore. I peek around the corner to see if he's headed up the street, and nothing. I look back down the way we came, nothing. It's a long street and very open, so if in the 5 seconds I lost sight of him, there isn't far he could have went that I wouldn't still be able to see him unless he climbed the wall. So I jog up the half of the steps to see farther up the street, and still no one walking up there, and I know he couldn't have scaled the wall into the woods to cut me off at the top unless he had a grappling hook. I would have seen him climbing. So I book it. I don't stop until I get to my friend's house, which is a giant hill and 2 blocks away. Once I get to my friend's house, I'm going over the details with her and her mom. First, we rule out the internet. This was the days that AOL was new, still on the mailed disc new. I was on AOL and had the little profile, but other than a black background and purple font with 8-bit twinkle stars, there was nothing to define it was me. Scanners were a super new thing and my family didn't have one yet, so I didn't have pictures online. My hometown was listed, but come on. What are the odds that this guy was looking at profiles and narrowed down that Ice Queen 415 was the girl walking in front of him at that moment out of all the other profiles that had the same city listed? So we quickly ruled that out, especially when I showed her I only had one friend, her, online because my other friends still had yet to even get a computer, let alone have AOL. Another new thing, I should say. I had only just moved to the area about a year before after spending much of my childhood living in New York. I didn't know many people and not many people knew me. Her mom was super into astrology and paranormal, so she thought it was weird he brought up my zodiac, but she swore it was my guardian angel. After a little debate, she states that he could have been stalling me or just enough time that I missed out on some kind of danger. Or that he creeped me out enough that because I ran all the way back to their house, I ran past the danger or something. I didn't feel like I was in danger when I was around him looking back, but I was just creeped out and on edge, what I was taught to be when a stranger was close. I wouldn't say I got the old friend feeling. As time went on, I chalked it up to one of the many weird experiences I would have as a young female left to her own on the street without parents who cared. I don't know, maybe it was a guardian angel. I didn't have many people looking out for me back then, so maybe it would be nice to know someone was. I wouldn't end this with "let's not meet," because in all honesty, I would really like my questions answered. Who he was and how he knew information about me. I never did see that man again, and in all the time I lived in or around the same area and never came in contact with anyone who reminded me of him. Anyone else have any experience like that or any idea of how he could have known me?